Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Kraig Bowers. We are here to preview Purdue versus Evansville, taking place November 4th on a Tuesday. It is a 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time tip on Big Ten Network. We're going to break down everything you need to know about Evansville, about what we're looking for from Purdue specifically, in a game that they should win. But as I kind of went through the roster, I was like, oh, this is like an interesting Evansville roster that has some pieces that could probably poke at some problems that Purdue has shown through two exhibitions. But obviously, this is the first real game that we will be seeing. Excited to be back in Mackey Arena. I'm joined by my co-host Kraig Bowers. As I have said, Kraig, how are you doing today?
We're here, Joe. It is officially here. I know we had the two exhibition games, but obviously the real thing starts tomorrow. And as I was prepping yesterday and today to talk about this Evansville team, it felt like we were really back and we were digging in the grind of like, all right, let's scout who Purdue's going to play coming up. And quite frankly, Joe, this is a team that was not very good last year in Evansville. A team that finishes 11-21 on the season, 8-12 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Coach David Ragland has been there now for 3 years, has a 33-66 record in that time. It'll be interesting to see. They've lost a lot of players from last year to this year. They bring in 9 new guys from into this year's squad. So really, this team has been rebuilt. They lost 2 or 3 guys that kind of had breakout type of seasons last year. So Coach Ragland has had to go out and find some pieces to bring in. So there's a lot of question marks about just what this team is. Right now, Ken Palm projects them to start the year as the 248th best team in the country. They finished last year at 254th. And really, that kind of leans more towards the defensive side of the ball where they had success, being ranked much higher on that side of a ball than on the offensive side. I guess as you kind of looked through this team, what they did last year and whatnot, that about where they should be in your mind? They kind of be in that type of a range of a mid 200 type team.
Yeah, I could see them maybe creeping up a little bit more. We'll talk about the players in the coming seconds, but I like kind of who they added at point guard. They returned some pieces. They have an interesting big. Like I don't think this is going to be, in the Missouri Valley Conference per Ken Palm, they're projected, uh, yeah, second to last. I could see them maybe being closer to the middle of the pack in the Missouri Valley Conference, but somewhere in that 200 to 275 feels pretty right for me.
Yeah. And as we kind of turn our focus and start to look at the players, talking about the fact that he brings in 9 new guys, quite a few of those are freshmen. He brings in 4 new freshmen. We're definitely going to talk about at least one of those guys, I think, being a European transfer in as a 22-year-old freshman. But nonetheless, one of the big things that they needed to try to plug a hole in was the fact that they were one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country last year, shooting 29.9% from the field, which ranks 344th in the country. I'm not positive how many teams are in, Joe. I'm sure you probably do off the top of your head, but that's really, really low.
Yeah, 300 last year there was 364 teams in college basketball. I think this year's 365. I think one more got added. So, yeah, not great shooting splits from them last season for sure.
Okay, let's dig into some of their starters, and it's been a little bit hard to kind of determine exactly who their starters are because they did play an exhibition game last week. There wasn't a whole lot of coverage over it, but did find a little bit. And within that, they're also dealing with some injuries. So as we talk about projected starters, it's a little bit of a shot in the dark, obviously, at this point in the season. And with the fact that they're dealing with some injuries. And one of those guys that's injured was probably the guy who jumped off the page the most to me as I was scouting this team, in Connor Turnbull, 6'10" center. He did not play in the exhibition game the other day, but he was the defensive player of the year in the Missouri Valley Conference last year. And this guy's got some hops and athleticism. I saw a couple of alley-oop dunks from videos last year, and I was like, oh my, that guy can get up.
Yeah, no, he's impressive. 6'10", 225 pounds. Played at Butler for 2 seasons before transferring to Evansville last season. He had the 14th best block rate in the country last year. He is somebody that, yeah, as you said, is a kind of high flyer, good athleticism, really, really good rim protector and shot blocker. And he's somebody that can be a really good roller to the rim if they do run more pick and roll within kind of their offensive system. Not really a great shooter, can knock down an open one, but I think you probably live with that a little bit more than him going to the rim. Solid enough in the post, can go over either shoulder. But he wants to get to the rim and use that athleticism, protect the rim defensively, kind of anchor that defensive side of the ball, and also really flash some quality facilitating out of the big man spot, I would say.
Yeah, and where they do bring some experience back is in that front court, and they also bring back a forward in Josh Hughes, that's at 6'10", an Australian that comes in. Another guy that was a really good defender. I believe he was also over 1 block per game for that team last year, which was part of the reason they were so successful on the defensive end. Their block rate as a team last year was extremely high. One of the few areas that they did really excel in. Talk to me a little bit about Josh.
Yeah, he's somebody that, like you said, good rim protector, especially like a very good secondary rim protector with Hughes and Turnbull on the floor at the same time. Like, you aren't going to get a lot of easy looks at the rim, specifically from driving, transition, things like that. Offensively, he wants to be a stretch big. He took more threes than twos last season. He is a career 28.3% three-point shooter. Like, another guy that, can he knock down an open one? Yes, but are you super concerned about him shooting? Probably not. He has had some issues with turnovers, so maybe you just want to kind of force him to put the ball on the ground. But yeah, more of like just a good rebounder, good rim protector, pick and pop guy. And I don't think he's super like solidly built, but pretty good footwork. And so somebody that just can kind of fill the gap, I guess, for their front court.
Right. As we turn our attention to their backcourt, the opposite there, right? There is no experience here, really, at least from who we think their starters are going to be. Evansville lost a lot of their talent that was in the backcourt last year to higher major programs. And as we look at this group, there were 2 guys that I thought really jumped out. And I'll start with the German and Leif Mohler, who in the exhibition game had 21 points and 8 rebounds. Like I said, he's 22 years old, coming over as a freshman on that Evansville roster. He did play pro ball in Germany in what is considered their 3rd-tier league of pro ball in Germany over there. The thing that's going to jump out to Purdue fans, I think, is he's 6'7", and he's going to be their point guard. At least that's the assumption, right? Is that he's going to be the point guard. And there was actually quite a bit of film on him out there, and just watching him, it's legit. Like, he's a facilitator at that size. Don't know if I would call him just like an extremely good ball handler, but I think he's certainly proficient enough there. What were your thoughts as you looked at him?
Yeah, I think the 6'7" point just kind of automatically jumps off the page, especially against this Purdue team that is going to generally be a smaller backcourt. Like, that's going to be CJ and Jakari, I assume, taking him, and then they've, CJ especially, I remember kind of last year flashing some of the ability to guard those bigger guards. But yep, you got to be able to do it against a 6'7" dude who I presume they will run a good chunk of their offense through. A lot of pick and rolls and things like that. Very good passer. I think he's a capable shooter. Again, I don't think he's an elite shooter, but I think he's capable enough. He is somebody that I could see Purdue trying to maybe just make him beat them with scoring and not really try to let him get the facilitating going. But yeah, 22-year-old has experience at the professional level, even if it is a little bit lower division. That's a guy that can kind of probably has the ability to go off on kind of really any given game.
Yeah. And the other guy to me, backcourt wise, that jumped out looking at film was Keyshawn Porter. He's a transfer that comes in from Radford and then North Carolina Central in his earlier days. I was watching film on him, and this dude jumps out of the gym and super athletic. And then I realized I was watching his high school tape. like I thought I was watching his college tape in terms of how athletic this kid was, and then I realized I was watching AAU run. Slasher, really good in terms of just getting downhill and attacking the rim. At 6'5", another guy that's got some size out there that potentially could give Purdue some issues. What are your thoughts on Porter?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Like, he is a super physical, athletic driver. wants to get downhill. He wants to get downhill, get to the rim. He draws a ton of fouls. More of a guy to me that works off ball, like attacking closeouts, coming off pin downs and curling and getting to the rim. You have to be aware of him in transition. He is somebody that will grab and just go and use the athleticism and try to put somebody on a poster. Um, what seems like the theme for this Evansville roster, good enough shooter you can't leave wide open, but also given his efficiency at getting downhill and getting to the rim, you almost live with him taking some jumpers. And if a couple fall, then you adjust from there. When you pair him with Mohler, the 6'7" point guard, like Braden's going to have to guard one of those two. And that's probably the first big thing that really pops is right. We know Purdue is going to be the more talented roster than this team and all that. But if we're looking at different things that Evansville can poke at, it's right. Braden, Fletch, even like CJ Jakari at time, like Meyer, really the whole backcourt, they're going to have to guard up. And so Braden, I assume if Porter is starting, would start on Porter. Maybe he starts on Mohler and you put CJ on Porter and go that way. But it's going to be an interesting thing to see how Purdue kind of matches up with those two.
For sure, for sure. From there, is it your thought that Hemingway is going to be the fit? Hemingway? Sorry, my favorite author was Hemingway.
There you go.
Your thought that he's going to be the fifth starter on this team?
I would guess so, and he is somebody that is a shooter. Career 42.9% 3-point shooter. Played 5 years at Clemson. Redshirted last year at Vanderbilt. Was never like a huge minutes guy at Clemson, but 289 threes in his career, only 81 twos. He is a catch and shoot guy. He's a shooter. Run him off the line. Force him to put the ball on the ground. I would guess he starts. I mean, he's a sixth year that can shoot really well. Like for an Evansville team that desperately needs shooting, he feels like the guy that will be probably that fifth starter. I would expect Fletch to probably start on him too.
Yeah, and he was an interesting case just digging into him because really the last year he played was 22-23. And then he got that medical red shirt, I think the last year at Clemson where he just played a few games and then got injured. And then I didn't even find anything about Vanderbilt. And then when you looked at the roster, he was listed as transferring from Vanderbilt. So a guy that's been out for quite some time. So obviously it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts. AJ Casey, as we turn to kind of the reserves, put up some big numbers in the exhibition game with 16 and 11. I guess they only played 7 guys in that exhibition game. So I guess there's some other injuries there as well. As you look at kind of who's going to come off the bench, maybe talk a little bit about AJ Casey and then anybody else that you see coming in as freshmen or transfers or coming back that might contribute in this game.
Yeah, AJ Casey, 6'9" forward, transferred from St. Louis, had 2 years at Miami before, not a shooter. Good rebounder, good rim protector, more defensive threat than offensive threat. I say kind of fits in well with this front court of being a quality defender, having some solid athleticism, being able to work well in the glass. I didn't look at the box score. I wouldn't be shocked if some of you said he had 16 and 11. Wouldn't be shocked if a handful of those were offensive rebounds that resulted in putbacks. A very, very good rebounder. The other two that I'm going to bring up is in bench and like you've said a couple times, we'll find out tomorrow when we watch like who actually is coming off the bench. This is just more based on what projections, maybe things what we saw or whatever. Marlon Barnes Jr. is a 6'6" redshirt sophomore wing. Had 2 years at Pitt, only appeared in 8 games last season. Really was a guy that came out of high school, wasn't super highly ranked, but like there was upside. Didn't work at Pitt, so now he transfers down. Super athletic, another 6'6" wing, wet. Right, size, athleticism could pose some problems for Purdue. Has some upside as a shooter. And Kaya Barrage, he's a 6'4" sophomore guard. He's another guy that is a shooter coming off the bench, more off ball. Basically, you want to force him to dribble because he's going to either turn it over or miss a two, which he doesn't take many of. He's going to take a lot of threes. Those are the other two that really stood out coming off the bench besides AJ Casey. And I guess we'll just kind of see what the rotation looks like for them tomorrow.
Yeah, and if Turnbull doesn't play, obviously that just shakes everything up more, and it'll be really interesting to see if he does or not. I'd look to see if there were any announcements and hadn't seen one yet. Somebody from Evansville fan watching might have already heard something here and could chime in the comments by the time this gets posted if you've heard anything about whether he's playing one way or another. As we look at this team, just in terms of what type of style can we expect based off of what Coach Ragland has done in the past, offensively, is this going to be a team that gets up and down the court, really tries to push the ball? Is this going to be more slow and methodical and look for post-ups, or what type of offense are we looking at here?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty heavy mix. They're not a super fast team. They have a couple guys that can get out in transition this year, so maybe that transition usage bumps up just a bit. There's a pretty even like shot distribution at all three levels. Get to the rim some, work in the post some, get some threes up. Not a ton of three. I mean, a decent amount of threes. They're just not good at making them in the past. They're very comfortable throwing it into the post, and that does start with Turnbull. So obviously, if he is out, like you said, that changes things a bit. But they're very comfortable throwing the ball into him or Hughes kind of at the elbow or on the perimeter and working off there. Not an overly fast team, and there's going to be a lot of kind of wing pick and rolls where they might clear out a side and run a pick and roll from there. To summarize, there's going to be some post ups, but for Hughes and Turnbull, they're also going to be operating at the elbow, top of the key, where they can kind of run into handoffs or pin downs. And then there's definitely going to be some kind of wing pick and roll action that the I would project Mohler and maybe Porter to be the primary ball handlers for those.
Okay. As we look at this team defensively in terms of what Purdue can expect as they try to attack it, is there anything that jumps out here in terms of what they like to do? Obviously, as I mentioned before, their block percentage was 16th in the country at 13.9. They had two guys averaging more than one block a game. And if I remember right, Turnbull was almost at 2 blocks a game last year. 1.9 blocks per game. Sorry, it was just out of my screen, Joe, as I looked for it there. So obviously difficult to score against them in the paint. Are they going to try to run everybody off the 3-point line and funnel them to their two bigs, or how are they going to try to stop Purdue defensively?
Yeah, so as you said, great rim defense, and that's where it starts. The perimeter defense has been iffy, and right, new personnel. I'm not, and we'll kind of see what that exactly looks like for them. But they're a team that, they've tended to allow a good amount of 3-point attempts. They're such a good rim protecting team in part because they have multiple shot blockers, but they also kind of always have at least one at the rim where they'll rotate over from the weak side. Not as extreme by any means as Nebraska, but slanted more towards that style of making sure to take away the paint, have your rim protectors there, and if teams beat you on kick out threes, they beat you on kick out threes. The other thing that really popped is they're a good transition defense. Now, Purdue, we know, isn't the most prolific transition offense by any means, but they're a team that has tended to kind of just sell, like they don't crash the offensive rebound, the offensive glass too hard, kind of just prefer to get back in transition. Now, did mention they have a couple good rebounders, so like this is a game that to me Purdue should dominate the glass, especially given Jacobson and Clough, and then we're getting back to more of a true two bigs. But they do got to be able to dominate the glass probably on both ends of the floor. Last thing is they can be pretty versatile defensively, right? Their bigs at times can be in drop coverage. I saw hedge in some of the film. They can switch five ways if they really need to. So Purdue just kind of has to be ready for a little bit of everything. I would expect.
Yeah, and I mean, if this team starts who we think they will start, just looking at their length across the lineup, we're talking 6'10", 6'10", 6'7", 6'5", 6'4". So a team that has some length. As you think about what Purdue might do in terms of attacking them offensively, it's really, really easy for us to just say heavy dose of pick and roll with Braden Smith and TKR. But anything just because of this team's length that you think Purdue will need to do offensively, or specific areas where they can exploit Evansville's defense?
Yeah, I'd say right. I think you first just do want to test what their bigs look like in pick and roll. Like, what coverage are they showing you? If they're switching everything, which could be possible, I think that leads to a lot more of like a TKR post up, or potentially even like Clough in the post. They've been a team that hasn't doubled a ton in the post, but also like they're not playing TKR every night, so there's always that factor too, where right you can switch up your game plan because he's so good. I would expect a good dose of TKR in the post. I think he's got to probably get going a little bit. Um, Outside of the pick and rolls, like if they're switching everything off ball, it does take Lawyer away a little bit. Um, but if that's happening, then basically Braden, TKR just need to get to this, even Clough need to get to the center of the paint. Their defense is going to rotate and collapse, and that's where kick out threes have to happen. We know we saw from the second exhibition, Purdue doesn't mind shooting in Mackey Arena, so they should probably get a good chunk of 3-point attempts as well.
Yeah. On the other end, as we look at how Purdue is going to have to defend this team, obviously don't know what's out there from a shooting standpoint. Evansville was absolutely wretched from 3 last year, but it appears that they've brought in a little bit more talent from outside from a shooting standpoint. I'm going to assume that Fletch probably guards Hemingway, right? And then from there, I know you mentioned this earlier, but I think it presents a really interesting matchup from there because you've got Keyshawn Porter at 6'5", but he's the one who really likes to get downhill and really likes to attack the rim. And Jakari and CJ are the best 2 guys on the team in terms of keeping their man in front on perimeter defense. So do you think one of them guards Keyshawn and that leaves Braden at 6 foot, guarding a 6'7" point guard? Or what are we going to do here? Are we going to have to draw up anything special to try to contain all this size and length up top?
I mean, I could see them trying to just keep things on the sidelines more when you can force them into where help is already going to be, especially given that Evansville, at least last year in the limited, but the film that I saw, where they liked running a lot of wing pick and rolls and things like that, I could see them just putting CJ on Mohler because he'll be the one that's more on ball, and just basically shading him sideline so that way there's help already there. I expect them to be switching definitely guard to guard, any guard to guard action. Could see TKR trying to be more of a switch guy in this game specifically when he's in at the 4. And then the other, like, I think more than even just game planning, it'll be a little bit of like, I assume Purdue's going to keep tinkering with the defense of, all right, how high of a hedge is Clough in? Is he in drop? Where's Jacobson at? Like, I think there's going to be some mix just because Purdue's still trying to figure out, I think, their identity defensively.
All right, we're to that part. We are on schedule, Joe. We're trying to keep these down to about 25 minutes per episode this year. Keep them a little shorter and get you guys through them and still tell you what we think you need to know headed into this game. So we're to the prediction stage here. As you look at this game, Joe, give us your predictions on the potential outcome tomorrow.
I think Evansville keeps it close for 10, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and close is probably like a Purdue 5 to 7 point lead. And then Purdue just, flips the switch in the second half and they win by like, I don't know, 24 or something like that. I do think Evansville poses a few kind of interesting things given like their talent level. And that's why I do think I wouldn't be shocked if Evansville kind of jumps out the gate early looking good and then Purdue just kind of rolls for the final 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I like you. I'm just very interested in watching some of these matchups and how Purdue handles them, because there's obviously at a different skill level. There's some teams on Purdue's schedule later on down the road that I'm already looking at from a roster standpoint that's going to have similar length to what this Evansville team is going to have. So should be really interesting. I'm with you. To me, it depends on if Turnbull plays or not. I think that's big in terms of how close it is. If he doesn't play, I could see this turning into a 30-point type game that Purdue just jumps out of the gate and runs all over him. But we'll see whether he plays or not. If he does play, I'm kind of with you. First game of the year, true game of the year, first time in Mackey for some of these Purdue guys that are going to be on the court. Be interesting to see who is on the court because we still have yet to hear a decision about whether Antoine West Jr. Plans to redshirt or not. Not that I think he would get that many minutes anyway if he doesn't redshirt. But that'll be interesting to watch for as well. So I'm still going to call a 30-point win here, Joe, as we start the season and Purdue just comes out shooting lights out in their favorite place to play, Mackey Arena. Take us home, Joe. When do we play? What station we on? Where do we play?
Playing in Mackey Arena, it's Purdue versus Evansville, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time tip on Tuesday, November 4th. That will be on Big Ten Network. And then after the game, we will be live for our post-game show. As always with the home games, it could be anywhere from 10 minutes to 40 minutes post the final buzzer, just kind of dependent on Mackey Arena's music being played for potentially long, but also whether we do post game interviews and things of that nature. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. And if you turn on bell notifications, you'll just be notified as soon as we go live. So then you don't have to worry about trying to find the exact time that we do go live. Make sure to come tune into the chat. Follow us on Twitter at Boilers in Stands for some in arena footage as well, especially pregame. Our guy Braggs does a great job with that, and Kraig will be tweeting throughout the game generally from there as well. So that's where you can find us all. And we, like I said, we'll be back after Purdue plays Evansville, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the Big Ten Network, and we will see you then.